Yes,
Did I? Well,
ventures and technology, right?
I put the 7.
You put the 17th.
Okay, I've shut off the sound on my meeting, Zoom meeting, and I'm using the telephone.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Longer distance.
Why are we here twice?
Delay. That long delay then. It's like when the Zoom person says vote 5 when we get to the all in favor say no, this the no part.
Right, can you still hear us, Duke?
I can, and what I need to do is I'm gonna hit *6 to unmute myself and *6 again to mute myself, so you don't get any background noise from me. Can you hear me okay?
What number are you calling from, Duke? Is it the 608?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I can still see you, but I don't hear any.
I see myself twice on the screen there. One is the 608-817-6541 number, which is my office number here. And then, of course, I'm on the video part of the Zoom. Yep, the one you have up on the screen is me.
Like we're getting a feedback from the comes back.
Yeah.
It's as if what we say here goes to him and then comes back. And on the delay.
All right, I'll try to jump off of the phone and get back on Zoom. We'll see how that goes.
Had a preacher.
YouTube has the delay. Do you have YouTube?
Before I did the YouTube. That's why. That's why.
You got it's called. Now I'm back and using the Zoom audio. And so we come on. We couldn't. I think so really this one. Actually, this one. We use such cheap tape, stays out of the 5 seconds range. And we had to keep moving. I had to keep moving the quarters apart because of drag and especially by the time we were done, we had a 10-second delay. Oh my God. That was funnier than.
You're not getting feedback at all.
I can hear all of you fine. You're not saying anything. Be paying attention closely here. Don't wait for me too much.
Okay, we'll try it. I don't know. Oh, there it
We
is.
still got the echo. We hear ourselves twice. That's the problem.
Maybe have him log off and log back on.
He did that. He did.
He did?
I can do that.
He did? I think he did. Came in on the phone. Oh, you know what? Microphone's working.
Can you hear us, Joe? Can you hear us, Joe?
Is there something you guys want me to do on this end? Because I can hear you and I can.
Okay, you're gonna try, let's experiment and have Jason read the public hearing. Read the public hearing.
Get to listen to it twice. I have wait for it.
There was already your echo.
Is he muted?
Okay,
Maybe the capital IT. could solve the problem.
yes. We always like to blame Madison when we can.
Keep pause. Keep pause.
What are you? Your end there.
I think we're waiting for the IT guy to. We're waiting for the IT guy to.
Okay.
Duke, do you have headphones you can use? Do you have headphones you can use?
Seems like the reset goes to him and comes back. Goes to him and comes back.
It's coming over his speakers and then going back into the microphone.
That may be a really good idea. Actually, I use my earbuds when I,
Yeah, I think if he plugs in earbuds or speakers, earbuds or speakers.
I'm gonna guess that you have two microphones running in there. And your Zoom on, and you can't have two microphones. You can only have one.
Yeah, I think what's happening is the sound's coming through your speakers and going back into your microphones. Back into your microphone.
Okay, do you have your Zoom voice mic open at the same time?
Say that again? Say that again?
Do you have your phone line open and phone open at the same time in that room? Because that won't work.
No, we don't have the phone on at all. No, we don't have the phone. So
Okay.
the YouTube is muted, I know that, and I have to have.
Because I can just hit my mute button. You know, just turn it on when I need to speak.
You notice how it's only what we say is duplicated and not what Duke says is duplicated?
Because when
And
he
why
talks, it's not coming through his speakers.
And it goes to him.
I don't hear any duplication on my end.
You try muting again, Duke? You try muting again, Duke?
Sure, I can do that.
And we'll see if we get any feedback that way. Already, and he just.
Or he-
But there's no feedback now that we're talking. Right, it has something to do with him because as soon as he's muted. Oh, he's like, he's figured all the out. But I don't hear any, and I'm on, okay, and I can't hear echoing.
And he doesn't hear echoing, he said.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's on his end.
Because we're
We don't hear any
YouTube's
now.
Muted.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just coming through his laptop and his speakers, and then it's going right back into the microphone. It takes that long to make the connection.
Yeah, so I don't think it's our end.
And he can unmute when you guys do motion.
Yeah,
If he wants to speak. He has to raise his hand.
did he log off, it looks like?
Yeah, I think he's off completely and we're not getting any. And it's still recording.
Here, let's go. I'm just kidding.
What we'll do is we'll ask him if to
Okay,
unmute.
he's back now.
Talk while he's muted. Yeah,
I'm
right.
back again.
So now if we do test 1, 2, 3 while Duke's not muted,
That was good.
Yeah, you guys sound good.
Maybe he just needed to leave and come back.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
I think we're good, Duke.
All right, good to go.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the problems I'm causing.
Okay, now, Jason, would you please read the public
did
hearing?
you approve the minutes already?
Yes.
Okay. Remember if we did that yet?
Yeah, there was a lot of echoing going on, but we got
Yes.
it.
Can I ask who approves the meeting minutes?
I just, the,
No,
no,
it
that
was-
was agenda
It
was
was,
and
you
that was-
and Brent and you,
Brent and me for,
and then I called for the question and we all said yes. Among echoes, so it did happen.
We got extra yeses.
No, we twice as many yeses as we needed.
Okay, all right.
Brent and Karen.
So we did approve the minutes. You made the motion.
Brent,
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, just want to make sure.
we're good.
All right, now it's my turn,
Your
right?
turn. Carry
Okay.
on.
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, January 7, 2025 at 9 AM at the Burnett County Government Center, Room 165, Town of Menan, Severn, Wisconsin. Regarding the following Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Number 1, map amendment MAP 2409 JNA Custom Homes and Rentals LLC to rezone the south half of the northeast quarter, section 29, town 39 north, range 16 west, parcel with tax ID 32963 located in the town of Menan from RR2 residential recreation and C1 commercial to all C1 commercial zoning district zoning change requested by Jesse Smith. Number 2, conditional use permit CUP 2501 Vindish. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Anderson, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Karen Vindish has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to allow horses in a residential district located at 20524 Bucktail Drive in the RR3 zoning district, the west half of the southeast quarter, the northwest quarter, the southeast quarter, section 28, town 37 north, range 19 west. Number 3, conditional use permit CUP 2502 Corey. Public notice here were given to all persons in the town of Anderson, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Radine Corey has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to allow horses in a residential district located at 21960 West River Road in the RR3 zoning district, the northwest quarter, section 9, town 37 north, range 20 west.
Okay. First, we have the rezoning request map 2409, which was postponed until today due to some issues over access. So the applicant is online, I believe.
Yes.
So could you bring us up to date on where we're at with that?
If you're speaking, you would have to unmute yourself. It looks like you're still muted.
Is it Jesse? Jesse Smith?
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yay.
We're good.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead and explain to us where we're at with this application regarding access.
Still in contact with the DNR, or I'm sorry, with Wisconsin DOT. Nothing has really changed as far as access goes yet.
Okay. Well, at this point, you know, what you want to do to the property requires commercial access, and you don't have that. So,
I'm just looking to have the back half taken out of residential and rezone commercial and continue working on the access.
you've got anything further to add? If not, I'll open the public hearing.
I don't know, other than, I mean, it's gonna sit there commercial and I believe it's RR3 with no access, or it's gonna sit there all commercial with no access for the time being.
Right, I understand that, but, so the status remains the same, nothing's changed from.
Correct, I have nothing, yeah, no, it's still working on it.
Well, what I'm gonna do is,
Nothing has changed.
go ahead, I'm gonna open the public hearing for anyone who wants to comment. And then if you have anything to add after that, we'll bring you back on, okay?
Okay,
Okay. So now I open the public hearing. Does anyone here wish to testify regarding that matter? They come forward, identify yourself and let it go.
Steve Evan, I live just north of him. Where he's proposed to put the storage units. So he can't get access, that's what I heard off the highway. He's working on getting access.
We'll even more on that precisely, but I think that is the case. I think it requires a commercial access. It does not have this. I believe it has a shared residential access, or not even that. It's uncertain.
Yeah, that would be shared with me.
That's what I believe, yeah.
I don't think that would work out too well.
Yeah, I mean, DOT hasn't approved a separate access for it, so I think the last communication was it has to share an access with one of the adjoining property owners.
Yeah, that's,
If I remember and I'm not looking right at it, but the DOT comment believed that it would share a residential access, didn't say commercial either, as I recall. I looked at it yesterday, but my memory is short.
Yeah, I mean, she does say in here, no new access point can be granted.
says he can use that access or you would have to vacate his access.
I don't even know if they said that.
You will need to work with the abutting property owner to the north to relocate or obtain an easement for access to this parcel.
So there isn't a easement for access on my property for him.
There isn't one, right? You're
I
not,
don't know, somebody. The guy that puts the signs up along the highway, he told me that she did put an easement on the property, but she's gone and dead now, so.
it would be a record.
Yeah, it should be recorded in the Register of Deeds office if there was a legal easement.
So you don't see any?
You're not aware of one. We're not gonna say there isn't one.
Yeah, we don't do title research on everybody's property at this point. That'd be up to him to do that, to
Right.
prove that he has access, you know.
And he is the potential buyer, but he's not the owner, as I understand it.
Oh, he bought it.
Or did he buy it? Okay. Okay.
So he's in limbo.
If there is no easement, correct me if I'm wrong, and you don't give him one, he doesn't have one. That be right?
That's kind of a bad area right there too for.
Mark has something to add. If you're done, I'll let.
It depends on which property owner sold the property. If you sold the property from that parent property, it implies access if you can't landlock somebody. So if that's the only access, that it would imply some of that, it's a legal question, but you can't sell landlocked property unless you acknowledge it to be sold or bought.
Right, and that's what's confusing about this, because DOT is saying there is not an access unless you get one from the neighbor essentially, but yet the property exists. Yeah, it's,
And of course, they can do junior, senior, who sold first and so forth, so that's, it becomes a legal question whether you can landlock something you sell or not. You can't landlock something you sell to somebody else.
thanks, that Mark Krause commenting on the, for the record.
The property to the north is. Well, he's trying to get it. I think he might have an easement to come off the highway too, but then he'd have to. Get the DOT to approve that. He owns the land north of me, but he could have access on County Road D, but.
Well,
Yeah, I bought the land in the middle. The people that sold to me owned 17 acres to the north. 10 to the
here's a
south.
junior to the.
So they were more or less landlocked.
If that's all you have to add, then I'll, for now, but you're not you're not planning to grant an easement, you said.
No, I don't want anybody using my driveway.
Okay. That's good for now. Anyone else have any comment on this? Any other testimony for the public hearing? Okay, then with that, I will close the public hearing and open it up to the committee for discussion. Do you have anything further you want to hear from the applicant?
Said what he's still working on it.
My own inclination is that I don't think we have enough to make a decision, either to approve or deny, because it's Mark Krause raised that there's a legal matter that needs to be resolved with this first. I would be inclined to dismiss it, and if they resolve it, bring it back then. But we've held 2 meetings, we published it, we're obviously not refunding any fees, but we could dismiss it without making a decision because we don't know enough to do that.
I don't think we can make a decision without finding out the legal ramifications. We can't say, all right, you can go through there. But if it goes through the courts and says they can't, then we have to.
I don't think we can make it, have a stance on it myself. That's just my opinion. Any further discussion by the committee? Anybody have a motion?
I move we dismiss it this time.
Motion by Supervisor Chuck Anderson to dismiss. Any
Second.
discussion? Second by Supervisor Szymanski. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll conduct a roll call vote here.
Now we need to open up Duke's
Oh, yeah.
microphone at the
Duke
appropriate
is
time.
muted. Does Duke have anything to say? I'm sorry.
No, I've been listening along and I agree with that idea to dismiss right now.
Okay, thanks, Duke.
Yeah.
I'm looking up in the air at you, but I know you're not there. So with that, roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker,
Dismiss,
vote yes to dismiss.
yes to dismiss.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Walker Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conray, yes. Motion to dismiss has carried. So we work on this some more, and if you can resolve the legal issues, we can retain another application at that time. Okay, on to additional use permit CUP 2501 vintage, that supports this in RR3. Are you here for that? Please come up. Will I get caught up? Okay, tell us what you have in mind here.
To have a few horses at our home for family use. To have some horses on our property for myself and my kids.
I think we have up to 5. Is that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
How many do you have?
Right now I have 2.
You state your name, please.
Karen Vindish.
So you're just asking for 3 more? Horses.
So it'd be a 5 total, yeah,
Is this the applicant for up to 5 or is you the one for up to 5?
I just applied to have horses on the property, and then I got a letter saying a bunch of stuff. I was what people were suggesting.
I probably did the same thing, because I was like, I don't know, I mean, I don't know in the future if I want to have more, I want to make sure it's on there.
Expensive.
So mine might say the same thing.
I just wanted to make sure that we were.
Yeah, mine might say the exact same thing. I'm not even.
Sorry. Could you wait? If you want to add something for the record, do that formally, but right now. I'm just.
I was just answering her.
I was just wondering because the 2 applications were really similar. I didn't know if one said up to 5 and the other didn't have a number. So I was just clarifying if we were all on the same page.
Sorry, I was scrolling to get caught up. I hadn't done that. So I lost track of what we were talking about. So anyway, so basically you're on 10 acres?
I think it's
5.
like 5.
5.
It's 5.02.
So
03.
with a little parcel of that size, you know, you aren't gonna have much for pasture, anything like that. So you have any to board them anywhere else?
Property, and I get hay from a family that owns
I'm a little hard of hearing, I'm sorry.
I buy hay from a farm
I'm sure.
down the road.
Well, the reason I ask is sometimes you have the horses quartered somewhere else some of the time, or you'd have them be there all the time.
No, they'll stay at my property unless I send them to a trainer.
And again, 5 acres, the only question, you'd have a little manure management issue.
So right now we are taking the manure and composting it and then turning it into the garden.
That's the one element that comes up is all, as you know, they produce a fair amount.
Sure do, but they're good gardens.
And the reason I brought that up was just if you did have them elsewhere some of the time, it reduces that.
Yeah.
That was the point of the question.
Yeah.
No further questions by any of you? Not, I'll open the public hearing and then I'll call you back up if we need any other questions answered. Okay? So, Session of the go ahead and say. We open the public hearing on this matter. Is there anyone here wishes to speak to that? Now would be the time if you have anything to add.
I was just answering her questions.
Discussion, opened it for that. It's a fairly common request and we generally are not without any concerns of neighbors. We're pretty open to this thing usually.
Does you have to have a management for manure management?
If you have more than 2 animal units under the ordinance, you need to contact Land and Water and discuss it. It's not, permits or anything really, but it's a evaluation to be sure you're not going to create some kind of a nuisance. Sounds like she's kind of managing it already, and almost everybody does, but it is one of those things that can become an issue.
Is a horse 1 animal unit?
I think a horse is actually a little more than 1. An animal unit is a steer. Like a yearling steer. But I haven't looked that up. But I think I think 5 horses might be 6 animal units, maybe. Not sure. Jason's going to snap right to that.
Only because our ordinance says 5 animal units for RR3.
Oh, that's what we're proposing.
But if it's the same.
Excuse me, Chairman Conroy, is there a way for me to raise my hand while I'm on Zoom?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah.
I can't see you, but somebody else can, so
Okay, let me know when I'm okay to address the crowd there.
you can right now. We're just.
Okay, well, thank you.
So,
I really appreciate your comments, Chairman Conroy, regarding, most of the time there's no issue with these things. Like with other requests, I know the Corys, their property, they have no close neighbors. I know the family has been a horse family forever. They care for their property quite well. A lot of times when these requests come forward, I would like to see them not even have to come.
Hey, Duke, Duke,
Yes,
can I
sir.
jump in real quick? We're not on their application yet. This is the Vindish one.
You got it. But
I just didn't know.
I'm in support of what they have going, so.
okay, do you have the animal unit number?
Oh, yeah, it's 2.
Pardon?
2 animal units per horse.
So
So,
technically, they could only have 2 horses.
Well, you guys are you're kind of confusing though what we have for proposed ordinance amendments. Those are just numbers in there to where people would not have to come through for a CUP.
Right.
People could still come through for a CUP to have 50 horses on residential if they wanted to.
right, we're trying to, what we're proposing doing is not having these CUPs for when we always approve of anything.
For a couple animal units, so it's.
But we gotta pick kind of a number because it is still a residential recreational district.
Yeah.
If this was A2, wouldn't matter. Even if it was a non-conforming A2 parcel, which is something else we might want to look at when we discuss other stuff. Okay. But yeah, for this one, it's not a matter they can't have 5 horses. It's just a matter of how many animal units that is, and it does trigger the need to contact Land and Water to make sure proper management of manure is going on. That's the extent of it. And that would be a condition we would make, is that you follow appropriate manure management mechanisms as recommended by Land. So, okay, you good with that?
And I was just gonna comment on the staff concern, horses walking on the drain field may cause compaction and premature failure of the drain field, just so they're made aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a choice.
That's just a matter of if you can keep them off the drain field, especially in the winter. This one is an extraordinary one with no snow, but livestock trampling down the snow and allowing deep frost penetration can freeze the drain field and cause you trouble even if it hasn't harmed it. But it's depth of the drain field too, to a certain extent. If it's pretty far down, it's less prone to problems than if it's only 18 inches down. And that probably not a problem, but it's probably good to not have them on top of it. And it's not a violation. Don't get me wrong. Just friendly advice. Be wary of that. Okay.
It would be to her benefit to not allow that to happen, so.
Right. I've seen where people have had a mound out in a sheep pasture and the sheep all like to stand on it because it's a little hill, It's funny how animals are. But,
We call it a conventional system.
right. But where you are in sandy soil. But again, it's good to keep them off it, especially in the winter. Otherwise, not so serious. Okay. And so we're in the committee discussion stage. Good. Well, the only concern we have is that your septic system we observed doesn't have a lock. It should. That's for your own benefit. And again, we blame the pumpers for that because they don't like to have to unlock.
We cut it off and we just haven't put anyone on.
And then there's the violation of the Wasn't there an outdoor sink?
Yeah, my son pushes rocks and we can't drain. It's some, we can't drain it into the septic. So we've been using that and then like the sediment that comes off the rock is laying on the ground, so we just scoop it up and then we put it in trash. Like the stuff that comes off of the rock, it's like it's a grit, like a very fine, like sandy grit that you use to process in the process of tumbling your rocks and rinsing them and then tumbling the different grits and making shiny.
It's the polishing agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're considering this, not to exceed 5 horses. I think we've already discussed that if you have a mare that has a foal, it doesn't count as another horse till it's not dependent anymore. You're not raising horses. I'm kind of kidding, but my sister-in-law wasn't either until her mare had a foal. And, you know, so.
Yeah.
With personal experience, I mentioned it, it's not a panic if it happens. Not to lock and change or be installed in the septic tank, correct the outdoor sink because it's wastewater, which contacts the body. Follow all local, county, state, federal requirements for this activity. So any need for any further conditions?
I don't know that it needs to be a condition, but it was stated that at that number, they need to talk to Land and Water about.
Let's add as number 6 that due to that being 10 animal units, Land and Water needs to be contacted in regarding what your plans for manure management.
Just to make it clear for everyone and, you know, the reminder of them.
Right. We'll add that for the 5th condition. Any further discussion?
Well, so do we need it? Are you making the motion then?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just asking for, I'll entertain a motion at this time then.
I'll make a motion to approve CUP 2501 with the 5 conditions that you just stated.
Motion by Supervisor Szymanski, second. Second Supervisor Chuck Anderson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Are you on, Duke? Supervisor Tucker?
Yes.
Supervisor Mueller?
Yes.
Supervisor Randy Szymanski?
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Lockwood Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Conner, yes. Motion's carried. Tidy up those 2 little things, contact Land and Water just to, so they have on record what you're doing and good enough. Okay. Now on to additional use permit 2502 for Corey. Additional horses in our R3 district, right? And you're on 40 acres.
Yep.
So altogether different discussion about land.
I'm reading Corey.
So just run it by us quickly what you want to do, similarly to what I asked.
Yep, I have horses on my property and because I started an Airbnb, I didn't even know that was a thing that we were in a residential area, 40 acres with no neighbors. So just
You're
trying to follow the law.
equivalent to an ag district, really, but because it's our R3 and the potential exists to subdivide it into 5 acres, we still need to go through a process.
Okay.
And again, you have enough to have pasture, I bet, right?
Yep.
So your horses are spread out farther. You're gonna have again 5, probably.
I mean, that's what I put down in case I do decide or end up having extra when grandkids start coming along and having one of their own.
How many do you have now?
I have 2.
So again, 2 would be 4 animal units we learned today, so that's enough to do the phone call or discussion with Land and Water.
I have to call the Land and Water at 40 acres.
Yeah, it's because it's not how much land you have, it's the zoning district you're in.
It's the amount of manure your animals are producing that triggers it, not the amount of acres.
And how do I start that discussion with?
Well,
What I need to do to
Yeah, you just would.
properly prepare my land or take care of my land?
Yep, just to make sure that you're managing the manure properly.
You probably are, most people would, because,
Do the same thing she does, compose it, even the neighbors come over to get it for their gardens, so
all of those
same thing.
perfectly legitimate thing.
Okay, so we just gotta
As you know,
Be
this
on
call
record.
them and do a record saying that we discussed it.
this is what we plan to do. They're not gonna come out and measure it or anything necessarily. They just want to know. Part of it is if we're the rare individual who doesn't do it, and you're in a situation where you start to create a nuisance, for adjoining property owners, that need some remedy that you're supposed to be doing this because you're properly managing your operation, right? So, but you with 2 on 40 acres, not gonna be a problem, really. But if you get up to 5 and have, concentrated manure somewhere, you need to figure out what to do with it.
Basically, rules have to be put in place because a few people have made stupid decisions in life, right? Pile manure piles on the edge of a creek or something, so then you gotta make a law that everybody has to be checked. Essentially, that's what it boils down to.
Yes.
So,
It's just reminding those who don't know, and you have typically, having horses is a lifestyle, not just a hobby, right?
Can we start deeming our horses as our service animals?
That's funny.
Okay. I'm like, they do so much for so many people.
Yes. So,
Anyways,
but you have nothing for violations, so.
I do have one question though. I see you had a short-term rental license, through 2023 that expired a year ago, and it appears you're still renting. Is that something you intend to?
I'm pretty sure I thought that I kept my license, so I thought I was doing the right things.
Well, it's just in the report that expired last January.
Well, I thought I kept up with all that I was supposed to. I either missed the wrong thing but I get emails and I send out payments, so I feel like I've been keeping up with.
So just, I mean, I would, yeah. That was just.
So maybe I've got them in the wrong spot or not emailed to the right person or.
I'm guessing because you need a county license, a state license, and you need to pay, if the township adopted the rooming tax, you need to pay that as well. I'm wondering if you forgot the county one.
I guess I just have a company too that I thought that they send me a thing and I've been literally making payments to so many people that I don't know, I'll have to look into the county one is missing.
Yep.
Just a matter of bringing it back up if we want to continue to do.
Like I said, I thought I was doing all the right.
And that doesn't necessarily affect this decision. It was
That's
just
not part
noted.
of this, but it's just something that you maybe
Okay.
aren't aware of. So,
Why don't you press it again?
Anderson.
Oh, okay. No,
it's just a matter of just for your own information. We used to do short-term rentals like this, like a conditional use. But the state law changed and made it a permitted use. So, but because of issues with septic and other things like that with occupancy, we went with a licensing process. So it's not even, doesn't go through a action like this. It's just like getting a fishing license. pretty
Yeah,
much.
like I said, I thought I was complying with all the rules, so if I missed something.
Just check on it. We don't, we're just calling your attention to it, so you don't inadvertently put yourself in violation. Okay. So with that, then I think in this one, we would add a third condition because it's potentially 10 animal units. So the same contact land and water regarding manure management. Condition 2 should be added. And then, let's see, this, we haven't.
you haven't opened a public hearing yet, no.
Jumped ahead. So we're done, I think. I'll open a public hearing. Any comments by anyone? No comments. I'll close the public hearing and open it for committee discussion and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 3 conditions, not to exceed 5 horses at any time. Follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity, and 3, to call land and water to discuss manure management.
A motion by Dr. Lacko Anderson, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Supervisor Chuck Anderson. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Duke, are you on?
Yes,
And he voted yes, right?
yes,
Supervisor Moyer?
Yeah.
Supervisor Szymanski? Yes. Supervisor Blomberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Lockwell Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Conrad, yes. Motion's carried. So we're good. Now, we're gonna review and approve a preliminary plat for Maple Terrace. Mark Krause,
Across the Wagner Survey. Mr. Holt, Maury Holtz is here too if you need to. Do you want bigger copies to look at, stay your smaller screens? What we were here before and got lots 1 through 19 approved before. And we're going to the second edition now. It'll show everything on one, and then the second page is what we're proposing for the newest ones.
I got two.
I think you're supposed to have two.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm handing out two.
So the first page is a composite of everything. Page 2 is actually just the part we're going to go with. That's basically the one you'll see next time around, because we're all right to almost our drawings are already updated to the final phase, but the first map is really the preliminary one with all the information on it. And as discussed, this was the first one we had done before, and the completed one was the north half of that. So if you take that off of the south part, this is the first 19 lots that we had done previously. So it's just a continuation of that. The one thing we'll also note is that we still show the road going onto the adjoining property if anybody ever wants to go that direction. So we're not landlocking anybody or trying to keep the availability to connect to a public road.
Which direction or how far southeasterly would be the next public road there, should that ever happen?
We're a half mile off of,
You're about a quarter mile west of Kruger, right?
and 3/4 miles east of the courthouse here, basically. So
So you're about a half mile north of Highway 70.
the southwest corner of this property is the center of section. So that's a half mile from every road on all 4 sides. So,
Good
yeah.
enough. I was just curious, but it's good to have the potential at least for a through road rather than a long cul-de-sac.
And we were the township last month and they're fine with things. All the roads are all constructed. Stormwater erosion control plans all in place. The rye and grass is all growing, so everything's finished this fall. And I know the town has looked at it too, for road and purposes and stuff too. It's not a town road or anything, but it's been reviewed and looked at, so. And if you have any questions of the owner, it's here too,
So
so
plans to make it a town road?
potentially, but not at this time.
Good to reserve enough right of way though and provide the potential, especially for it would otherwise be a long dead end and only one way out.
So at one time, we had a temporary cul-de-sac showing our temporary easement for a turnaround at that Y where the roads came together there. That's wasn't built because the road was extended right away anyway. So the cul-de-sacs are on the end of each road. So it's already all very functional for all the emergency services and et cetera. So.
R1, probably.
Oh, what is this one? I
I think it's 2. I believe it's 2.
Looking at the smallest lot, it seems like one.
RR2.
Acre and a half minimums, but
No, that's good. Looks fine.
It's, the turnarounds there, the cul-de-sacs, they're big enough fire trucks.
yes. That's the normalized, size here is 120-foot diameter, 60-foot radius.
That's kind of the boilerplate version.
It's been that size for many, many years, so.
Mark, Can I just ask, how many lots is in this one? How many lots is this?
20 to 36, so what is that, 17?
This is not a public hearing, this is just a.
Yeah, this is just committee approval for plat. Yep.
Any interest in commenting? I think so. Clear it out back there.
If you guys are looking for the road stuff too, you can look at this little location sketch, shows the bottom,
That's good.
bottom right corner there shows the little section.
Okay, there's this minute down.
You know, that's for example, maybe someday it might connect to Jack Pine Trail and come back out, you never know. Somebody else is subdividing in there. Any further discussion or questions by the committee?
We're doing their homework.
Entertain a motion to recommend approval of proceeding with the plat.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Supervisor Johnson,
I'll second.
seconded by Supervisor Szymanski. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call, we don't need to. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Tucker, yes. Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blumberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Luckwell Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conway, yes. We're good to go.
I'll take it. I can go what it's with file.
Do you want this one?
I'll keep these marked.
That's fine.
I'll throw them with the file.
Oh, on to review, starting just the tip of the iceberg of reviewing potential changes to land use ordinance, chapter 30 of the county code. So Jason has provided a color coded things to look at for discussion. Obviously, we're not done with this today. It's just getting started.
So basically, yeah, I went through articles 1 and 2 to try to not bite off this whole thing at one time here. And so it's color coded, basically items I suggested to remove, yellow are items to add. I have some notes or questions in there for the committee to look at. So do you want me to start walking through what I've got in here?
Yeah, walk through and then go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, would the committee allow me to sit up at the table during this?
Yes.
Probably announce who he is for the public.
He is the town chairman of the town of Dewey today.
I'm county board supervisor, but today I'm here representing our township, the town of Dewey.
And say your name just for the.
Dwayne Johnson.
Thank you.
And Dwayne is a former member of this committee.
Yes, I spent some good years on this committee.
We're finally starting to appreciate it, I can tell.
I am, yes. Well, thank you.
All right, so we're just gonna start going through here. And again, if you have any comments, thoughts, this was just me trying to throw a crack at putting some districts and making some changes in here based on what I've heard over the last, 6 months from the committee. It's ultimately, it's your guys' ordinance. You guys can modify and change what you see fit. So page 2, I added a definition of animal unit. So I was kind of going through the definitions, looking at that stuff. There was not one in there, so we should probably add one. And that table 2A and NR 243, that's that chart that shows what each chicken and turkey and cow and horses worth, so. I figured we should add that in there.
Now, so you referenced that, could you have that actually in this? Or because that is subject to change, you don't want to do that?
Yeah, we don't want to usually, we like to reference codes, so then if the code changes, we don't have to, our ordinance automatically updates. If it was buried in our, or part of our ordinance, then we'd have to modify our ordinance, so. That's why
While we're in the definitions, one that occurred to me, looking at, it's triggered by looking at this further deeper into the ordinance. We, in our conditional use permits for gravel pits, don't call them non-metallic mines. We say quarrying, mining, but not. It seems to me that that might be another definition to, bring that, gravel pits and quarrying, mining have a definition in NR 135,
Oh,
not what we call them.
better definition for mining. Basically to reference NR 135.
Because like a lot of the old model ordinance language we had predates NR 135.
Yep.
And since that's what a non-metallic mine is defined at, in there, we could piggyback on that.
Yep.
And the reason I brought it up to get ahead of myself a little bit is if we create a new district that Supervisor Anderson is advocated we do.
Supervisor Johnson.
Sorry. Got confused for a second. We might want to look at adding that to that, possibly removing it from A2, which has become really a mixed use, pretty high density district. And then, of course, that would be similar to what we did with campgrounds, and that approving a new expanded mine would be a zoning rather than just a conditional use. But there's a whole bunch of exemptions that would provide existing uses in farmlands and small non-metallic sources that aren't covered in that. So it would, and anybody with a small pit there would still be legal non-conforming. It wouldn't be expanding. Just a thought, a bit clear, but that's what caused me to look at it. So, go ahead, see.
Then I need to add a definition of developable acres, cause that's come up before. I didn't put it in here cause I thought of it like a couple days ago as I was rereading all this stuff again, so I'll work on doing something there. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I added any other definitions or thought of anything else for definition wise.
I just have a question on, like camping unit as I'm going through. And, it specifies several different definitions for camping unit. But for most of our ordinances or pretty much anything, a camping unit basically means anything from a tent to a skirted in park model.
Correct. Those definitions were added when we added that RRRC district, because we have in there different rustic camping is allowed in certain districts, not in others. The full park model ones are only allowed in the RRRC district. So that's why we kind of broke out the definition of camping unit all the way from a rustic one all the way up to a park model. Those are capped at different numbers in different districts.
I guess this is just a question, within our ordinances, do we have the ability to, further define, length of stay for particular types of camping units, or, basically camping unit equals camping unit?
Well, the state code does say that it's supposed to be 8 months. Again, when we talk about, you've probably heard me speak before, we can make whatever rules we want, but do we have the staff to enforce it? So by saying limiting someone to staying in a camper for a certain amount of days, that requires someone to monitor that.
Maybe the statement is just choose to enforce campground regulations and no other. If we want to adopt that, we're required to adopt it in its entirety.
If the county wanted to take on state licensing for, that's what you're talking about, state agency status for licensing campgrounds, we could do that, but then we have to take on restaurants, hotels, pools, you can't just take one little section of that cat code and say we're gonna license, or we're gonna take over licensing for this entity only, you gotta take over everything. And if the county did that, it would go, it'd be the health department that would take care of that, so I'm all in favor of it, then I wouldn't have to deal with camping. So I say go for it, have the health department take it over, but
How come to know this? Ooh,
except
us and Washburn.
Washburn, yeah.
Washburn, you can't run fast enough to catch Washburn and do some join us in this. We can't do it all.
Yeah.
You know, so that's basically the issue, but it is, those counties tend to have. They go to it's the.
Well, Sawyer County has it, but they have like 500 short-term rentals, you know, that they license and all that stuff. But
It's under the health inspection, but it's all it's.
Yep.
You know, so that's a lot of staff and enforcement. And finding some problems. We're in a position to take on.
so I'd say go for it, to have the health department do it. One less thing for me to worry about. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Okay, let's get back.
Referencing camping units, as long as that came up. It also uses the word yurt. I think that's kind of a cute word. Has anyone actually seen a yurt in place in Burnett County?
There was.
Bayfield has a couple of them, I think, that they rent out, actually, I believe.
But the recreational rental,
Yeah.
it's a definition of the code.
Yeah.
There was one in
Yeah.
Wood River Township in Grants, Peter Johnson. But I think when that tornado went through, I think it destroyed it.
Okay.
Back in 2000.
Yeah, it's pretty much a pretty tent.
Yeah, apparently the origin is in Central Asia.
Well, not a lot of wood to build things under there.
All right, page 8, I just have some comments in there that I need to revise those sections, section 30-5, 30-6, because of the amendment to the comprehensive plan. So I'll get working on that here. Page 9, so this is where we're starting to talk about districts. So I don't know, the chart on this page 9, the stuff in blue, those are not added to the ordinance. Those are really notes, I guess. So people, when you're looking at this chart, you can kind of understand what the parcel sizes are. And the ones in yellow are the kind of the 5 districts that I thought of adding to the ordinance. I know Dwayne is here for the A5. I know we talked maybe about doing, some different residential stuff. So I thought if we're gonna look at the ordinance, I just thought, well, I'll put in 5 different districts. It gives townships more choices if they wanna rezone certain parcels. So yeah, these are all up to you guys to look at, change, or adjust. So I don't know, I don't think we should really talk about the chart. It's probably more of talking about kind of each district individually. Then we can come back and modify the chart if something gets removed or added.
One other element of this too, it's a little bit outfall from Act 67 that where we are vulnerable to have additional use permits approved under the, if you applicant agrees to all the conditions, you shall approve language in the statute. And by that, if you want to allow some things, maybe make them permitted uses, but then you need to look at larger minimum parcel sizes so they don't conflict with other uses, which leads us to think about expanding that. I'm not sure that we really need a 40-acre RR district, but it's an option. And if we create them as floating districts, then they don't happen unless somebody chooses to rezone to them. That would, just because we would create a district doesn't mean we would rezone to it, which is what we did with our RRC. And we have rezoned to that a few times and may well do that some more. But that's the issue, for discussion there. We would maybe need to wordsmith that a little if we go to 10, 20, and 30, or 40, I should say. A half of a 40 could be less than 20. And a 40
Well,
40 could be
yeah, and I always look at, and I always look at that, if I own a 40 and it's only 39 acres and I'm zoned A2, that's 4 lots, I would let the person make 4 lots because they bought a 40. If it happens to be a little short, that wasn't their fault, so.
And if it's usually government service.
Yes, yeah, so I've always looked at it that way, I don't, and that's kind of the reason why I wrote 38 acres for the A5 and the F2 and the RR6, because most of your, I don't think there's any 40s that are probably under 38 acres. Might be a few out there, but the intent was to basically be a 40.
That's pretty cool, unless you subdivide it.
Yes,
No.
yep.
There might be some government lots that. A little bit shy.
Well, and a government lot was never meant to be a 40 either, so those ones are always a little tricky. Yep.
I think it gets complicated.
Yeah.
No need to worry about it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, so page 10. This is the RR 1, 2, and 3, so these are zoning districts that we already have in the books. Section 30-84, 8 and 9 I added. There, I know we've talked about trying to open it up for some chickens. How many? I just put a number in there. You want it to be more or less? Doesn't matter. I just put something in there for discussion purposes. I did put that they gotta be confined into a fenced area, you know, RR 1, 2, those are typically your lots around lakes. And that's again why I said they should be 75 feet back. Was my suggestion, and then the no roosters and guinea fowl, since those are the noisy ones.
Peacocks.
Yeah. So I don't know what you guys,
It's pretty specific.
yeah,
The definition of chickens that doesn't include ducks and guineas and peacocks and other exotics.
Are peacocks a subset of guinea fowl?
I didn't grow up as a farm boy, so, or at least animals.
They're related to pheasants.
So I could try to come up with a definition of a chicken. Fine chicken.
The roosters thing, I don't remember this precise, but there was actually, I believe that the discussion at the state level, on the state law allowing up to like a dozen or 10 or whatever chickens and no roosters. That was actually a consideration, never got any traction.
Yeah, I believe the last session, there was some proposed bill floating around of allowing everyone to have a couple chickens on a lot, no matter where you were.
In urban areas.
Yeah.
So I think it's perfectly rational to do it. The roosters, well, with the fact that we actually have had a bird flu case in Burnett County and bird flu fatality in Louisiana, somebody's gonna be mad if the Davis chickens aren't fenced. But I think that's a bit of a rationale for that, but otherwise, I think that that we could very easily just do that. Pretty harmless.
I have a question on the next one in the RR3, when you're talking up to 5 animals, but you say some of the, you know, so that would be 2 horses. That some of those lots are as small as an acre. And so I don't know, I mean, that would be worth consideration.
Even kind of chicken on the road. We also sometimes allow smaller lots in the density development. Particularly in the egg, we might want to sell a couple of small lots in the road and keep the rest of it in production, right? But even in our districts, maybe what we should do is develop some language that would say that's what animal unit numbers apply to a open time and area and with lot. And any animal units requested on lots that are subscribed from the conditions. This happens to live use too.
Correct. Yeah, cause there could be someone that has a different example, if I have an RR1 zone lot, but it's only a 50-foot wide lot on a lake. You're saying since that's non-conforming, they shouldn't be allowed to have chickens? Would that be that's an example of wanting them to do a CUP?
We're going to go probably with us, you know.
Mhm.
And the reason is that we don't, as far as the Act 67 issues,
Yeah,
if we defined in the ordinance standards, and they don't meet those standards and not being able to make and meet the conditions to satisfy concerns as a basis, legitimately to deny.
Yep.
No. The older argument that that they're not allowed everywhere, CUPs, but in certain districts could be allowed. We make a finding that we don't think this is a suitable location, that doesn't carry water right now. Right? And we've had that experience. But we have to go through the conditions aspect if we're gonna deny a CUP. Then you don't meet the standards, so you have to mitigate that. How are you gonna do it? If you can't do it, then it's denied. Right? That, again, because of the proximity, closer as people are to proximity, the more conflict over any of this. That's just.
That would be my other suggestion. There is, I don't know if this would be an appropriate place to state or reference manure management. Because if you're on a 1.5 acre lot and you have 2 horses, potentially a small lot for lots of poop. And, you know, where else are they, you know, going to read that they, you know, need to have some sort of a plan or talk to somebody about that?
Not just closest, but closest. You're gonna have value producers compared with chickens.
So, I mean, maybe a reference to that they need to talk to Land and Water or have a
Sub-
plan.
Subject to land and water.
And I think most people do it right, but for the ones who don't have a clue.
The experience I have with people wanting horses on a small lot, people who have a place that's where the horses are boarding. But wanted me to bring them to the cabin and keep them there for part of the time and they're up and riding around and it makes perfect sense. But if you're gonna have a living there all the time, you don't have an issue, then if your neighbors are close by and all that. So it's just a matter of common sense, but we have to allow for the person who just have an abundance of it. But yeah, I think we can come up with some language to do that. We might need to make a little section, kind of like we do for, you know, communication towers or other things specific to conditional uses involving livestock. A little paragraph in there or whatever to explain why we restrict non-conforming lots within any district to a CUP to manage these things. Some of the language. That's the wordsmithing part, right, Jason?
Just making some notes here so I can try to remember how to modify this for next go around.
Say, this is Duke. I want to take the time to thank Supervisor Johnson for coming in with input on this and for the committee looking at creating a little more relaxed guidelines for people with different zoning. I have a meeting I have to step away at 10:30, so I'll stay here until I have to leave. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So thank you, Jason and Supervisor Johnson, Chair Conroy for facilitating that.
Thanks, Duke. And when you step out, we'll keep up the good work down there.
Okay, so on that page. I'm gonna try to get a little better definition. We're gonna work on referencing land and water manure management. We're gonna I'll wordsmith something about conforming parcels versus non-conforming requiring a CUP still.
Right.
And then we'll look at it again in the future.
And then, about the no roosters and guineas, I think people should be able to have a rooster or some guineas. It's, you know, yeah, they make noise, but so do dogs that sit outside and bark all day.
It's true. I think we're talking with permitted versus conditional.
Well, and when you're talking about roosters, are you just saying in the RR three or the RR 1 and 2 and 3? Cause RR 1 and 2.
Well, here
Got
on
it.
number 8, you know,
Yep.
where it says R1 and R2 there. You know, it says no roosters and no guineas.
In RR, well, yeah, in RR3, there's another way we can turn this a little bit too, but in RR3, we wouldn't have that restriction.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of asking in RR 3, with it being a 5-acre lot, maybe you let the
And I
roosters
think-
be
I
there.
think
Right.
we went with a non-conforming, we could also add some language in there where you're conforming, you're in RR1, but you're 5 acres. Okay, then it's become permitted as RR3 would be, right? Subject to, but if you with a condition, if you subdivide that lot, then that permit expires. You now gotta come into compliance. But it would be a way to like the lady with the 40-acre horses, right? That's equivalent to an ag, exclusive ag acres, right? So, you know, I think there's not only do you look at non-conforming, but also way in excess. But if you subdivide, you're not in that exemption anymore. That would be how I'd try to handle that, just from past experience with when you get people crowded together, one person is gonna be mad for some. The guy out on Clam Lake, when we told him he couldn't have chickens without a permit, got rid of them and got guineas instead because his neighbor had complained about his chickens, right? That's the kind of thing we're trying to not get in front of us. You know what I mean?
You know,
So that's the view. I think we could make it, go both ways.
I could make some language that says, yeah, if you're RR 1 or 2 and your 5 acres or larger, you would be permitted to have roosters. And then if you're under that 5, you would have to get a CUP.
Or even that you're under the RR3 standards for animal units. Unless you subdivide, in which case, then it goes
Yep.
away.
Yeah, cause there are some RR 140-acre parcels out there.
Right, and I think, we saw one today, there are 3 40-acre parcels, but the point would be, okay, you're fine, but if you start selling off 6.2 acre lots, you're not anymore, because you've changed your exemption, is what it would be. Well, think about it, we don't have to do it today, but I mean, but it's sort of like if we're gonna target non-conforming small lots, if people with way more land than minimum could benefit from that too, right?
Could we just go by animal units per acre?
That's kind of what we're doing, but I think we're recognizing that we gotta build a mechanism in there that if that acreage changes, that approval, that exemption expires. Gotta formalize it somehow, I think.
I could do animal units per acre. I don't know what you would do though when my lot's only a quarter of an acre.
See, it takes an awful lot of chickens to make an animal unit, so.
Well, but we wanna have 0, then means I don't get any chickens. Don't we wanna let someone have some chickens?
Well, then well, I guess 1 unit would mean you could have a cow.
Correct. So that's why animal units gets a little tricky,
Yeah.
cause then you
Don't
can,
call it out.
And some are, it takes some, like,
you know, like in the village of Grantsburg, you can have 6 chickens in the village of Grantsburg.
no roosters, I bet.
No roosters,
Yeah.
but you know, you can have, you know, with the small city lots, you can have up to 6 chickens without having to have permission to. You know, so if you get a quarter acre lot, you know, you should be able to have at least, 5, 6 chickens, whatever.
that's why we won't try to make it too rigid. Try to keep as much flexibility.
Yeah, we're fairly chicken friendly. For what it's worth, when I lived in Dallas, Texas, some 40 years ago, I would hear roosters crowing in the background. I thought, this is Texas, this is Dallas, so I thought that's just the way things are, so didn't bother me.
I would bet it's probably not allowed anymore though, I would guess.
I don't know, but if it were right next door, I might have had a different opinion.
Only experience I ever had with complaining about roosters crowing was a guy who had a bunch of meat chickens in an old farm across the road from the lake. and had like 100. Anyway, long story short, the neighbors complained about smell was one, but other one was roosters. Like, they gave me order to get rid of them by like October 13th. And then subsequently rezoned an A2 district. And we could do it, you know, like, it just, that's how that works. It's just bizarre. Oh, okay.
Next page, page 11. Under the CUP, I'm gonna modify section 4 to exempt the livestock that are permitted in the prior section. Number 9, I kind of had a question on. 15 domesticated animals, we added that in there 6 years ago, I wanna maybe say. Cause we got a few people that are, you know, don't raise dogs appropriately and have some health and sheriff's department, you know, compliance issues with some of them. I know we kept that number 15 in there because of the bear dogs. We didn't want to try to limit them on how many they could have. You know, I just thought, do you want to change that number, leave it, not talk about it?
Have we had any problems with it since we put it at 15?
I haven't heard about it. I know we've used. Sheriff's Department has asked me at one time, I think, to kind of use it to enforce it on someone. I don't get the barking dog calls, so I don't know how bad of an issue it is out there with barking dogs. That's all goes to the Sheriff's Department.
Jackson for a while, it also involved structure that was give us at the volume and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Seemed to resolve itself.
I think the dogs got resolved, the person's still building stuff without permits, but yes. Yeah. And a lot of, you know, the townships are the ones that can adopt noise ordinances. It isn't the county that's gonna do that, so.
Interesting trivia, and I'm trying not to slow this down too much, but. I saw, I think with Delaware or New Hampshire, some state. Cooking dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so some of these regulations and some of the private law, like private law, for real families and other people. And, you know, they relate, so it looks nice, it's good dog.
My suggestion on that one is maybe you check with the sheriff's department or whatever and just say, is there an issue or how often is an issue? You know, is there a better tool that we can use to help you and otherwise leave it?
But when you said that's up to the township, so the municipality to put in a noise ordinance. Which is what it'd be, not an animal unit, it would be a noise ordinance. Yeah.
Next I added, new zoning districts are 4, 5, and 6. So these are basically a 10, 20, and a 40 acre residential. The reason I thought of adding some is now you have the town of Oakland, who has a 10 acre minimum lot size in place. So I thought, you know, if they wanted to rezone land to the 10 acre minimum size, that's an A2 district. Well, then you open it up to 250 animal units, which I don't think they probably want to do that on all their parcels. So I thought maybe we should add a few residential districts in here. Again, it's not requiring anybody to go to it, but it's just an option that if townships want to rezone something or certain areas, they have more choices essentially. So.
The effects that we can do in conditional uses, you can.
Yep.
The bigger the lots are, the more stuff we can allow.
Yep.
And as soon as it doesn't automatically open up.
Yep. So there, I just kind of came up with, you know, some RR 4, 5, 6. I put in there some permitted use. you know, I put in 10 animal units. Again, it was just me picking a number out of the air. 10 animal units, that's 5 horses, what, 10 steer roughly?
Lots of chickens. Lots of other.
Yeah.
Sheep, and all those things.
Yeah.
Quite a-
Mm-hmm. And I figured maybe probably allow roosters and guinea fowl in there, cause again, it's a 10-acre minimum lot size. We would allow roosters in an A2, which is a 10-acre minimum lot size, so I thought allow them in there.
And just to not be redundant, every time we mention animal limits, can we just add a reference to whatever the
Oh,
manure management suggestions are?
You know, just so that we don't have to keep saying.
Right, well, that, and it's helpful if someone is looking at this, that they aren't searching elsewhere, that there's a reference to, hey, you need to pay attention to this.
Yeah, I think we might want to think about some other things we might have as conditional uses, but for now. It allows a lot of more things permitted than we would have.
Yeah. Well, and again, that was kind of my, you know, later on, I have questions like, you know, is there, what zoning district should solar go in, you know, would that be one where you maybe want to say in an RR6 or 5, you would allow a solar or?
We do that for a minute too, but don't let. If you guys need the recent only things in you got, it's a really good article about solar. in it. I don't know the details. Another issue that's a big issue is the storage facilities for power generated by solar. Battery independent of the solar facility itself. And that's, there's a can of worms about potential fire issues, problems, and probably ought to be in industrial or in some other. We should address that, not today, but we should address it when we talk about solar. And then last thing is in this, you know, the Public Service Commission takes over the big ones.
Yeah.
We approve the small ones. The one in Webb Lake being forestry was fine, but there are some limits on residential zone districts with solar. We need to look at that. And maybe though that the A2 and A5 districts, we want to get very specific about solar. Because again, like non-metallic mining, we're not. We say power generating back when the ordinance was written, that meant a dam. You know, we need to clean that up, but that's enough on that for today.
Number 7, one major private residence for the recreation now. And the phone state licenses. Much of that, municipalities.
Yeah, it could be like a note or something that I could say, check with your municipality or something. Yeah, it's more of a, because we're not gonna enforce the township ordinance.
No.
But it's a good thing to, and we talk to people when they talk to us about it. And we also have it listed, I believe, in our application form for short-term rentals to make sure they're contacting their municipality. But yeah, we can try to add maybe like a little note. In those sections. I would probably add it. Cause that's listed in RR1, 2, and 3 as well. I should probably add that note in those sections as well. So now. On to.
Okay, back up. I do have a quick question on line 3. Page 12. It's talking about home occupations and it references, 25% of the dwelling.
Yep.
So, but where it refers to expanded home occupations, which may be carried on other than within the confines of the home. So, I mean, is that kind of saying they can have other structures? But there's not
Yes.
necessarily any limits or definition to what the other is.
Correct. That's the standard language that is already in sections, the RR 1, 2, and 3 already, so I
Okay.
just copy and pasted that.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe it's the guy that makes furniture and he has a big pole building, you know, that's on his property, that's his shop, where it's not,
We have an employee.
and have an employee or something, and it's not,
To generate public traffic to the place.
Yeah.
So you start to look at that.
But it still limits the number of like employees. I mean, that's still limited. Once it gets above a certain amount, then it would trigger.
That's what the commission used.
Okay.
There's a certain point that you probably should be when you go to commercial or industrial business.
yeah, if you have 5 employees, you probably shouldn't be operating anymore in a residential district, you should be somewhere in a commercial area.
In that boundary exact number.
It
Correct.
does say not more than one non-resident person is employed. Okay.
So, I used to make it up on this looming lots, all the time. If you hire 5 people to increase your production. And you expanded home
Yeah.
occupation at a minimum.
Okay.
You know, if you go to 20, then you probably want to get out of the residential.
Okay.
We used to Nashville, home occupation is a little bit expanded.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's working from home as opposed to home occupation is not required to get a permit.
No, if someone has a home office that they're working remotely, I don't consider that a home occupation. I consider it more of if you're having guests or people come to your house to do business, that's more of what I think of a home occupation.
We've authorized to have guns.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
example. It's not gonna be much people, even much public traffic. A little.
Or a beauty shop.
Beauty shop, nail salon.
All right, page 25. Wayne's big section. No, so I've went to a few Town of Dewey meetings in the past and they discussed wanting to have some more flexibility in the A districts. Because right now, if someone's exclusive ag and they wanna split something off, they have to essentially get a rezone to A2, which then now allows 4 dwellings per 40. And the Town of Dewey doesn't want 4 new houses per 40, so we kind of thought maybe we'd come up with a new district. We call this A5, which would essentially give a little bit more flexibility to those to get out of exclusive A, because exclusive A doesn't allow someone to build like a hunting cabin. It has to be a farm residence for a farm worker or an owner or employee of the farm. So,
This is something we kicked around years ago when we were doing our final preservation plan.
Yeah.
We wanted to create a district to use going through so that you would have to track it the same way.
mhm,
But that cap couldn't seem to quite figure out how that works, so we're going to having the overlay.
yeah,
A2 as it is too generous to be a farmland preservation program. This, we restrict a bunch of the stuff we allowed the bank cap.
yeah.
But this district would be probably more friendly for that because of its large size parcel. Farmland preservation.
So basically what I did is I took the permitted uses from, I believe, A2. Looks like I copied those, verbatim. Yep. Conditional uses, I essentially again copied that verbatim.
Then you're gonna start at 7. How the conditional use anymore. So from 250 to 500. And the deciding over.
Oh, it's not?
Because we can start the citing ordinance at 250. You know, remember your grandfather didn't, if you wanted so on.
Yes, but didn't we still wanna do CUPs when they were over 250?
No.
No, okay,
And we corrected that in A2.
okay.
Right language there.
I'll
This is our
look.
language before we fixed it.
Okay, I'll look at those sections then. So the permitted uses would be up to 500 then, right?
No. In the siding law. Yeah, it's still permitted. We didn't say, you're right. That is the limits happens to the 500, but the siding ordinance controls 250 to 500.
Okay. So I would say a farm with up to 500 animal units is a permitted use. Citing will still kick in at 250, but it's not gonna be the CUP.
I mean, your reference citing kicks in it.
We have that.
I would have, I mean, I could put a note in there. So I need to revise cap.
We say for farms to more than 250 units. Farms more than 250 units with any ridiculous standards, chapter 18.
Yeah.
Which is signing.
Yeah.
We're permitted to 500. So that this district will still remain just as ag as any other state ag district. Like, except when you get to that, then you can go beyond exclusive ag, you can go beyond.
Yeah, exclusive ag is the only district that is essentially the naughty C word district, right? I'm just trying to see if I have that same language in A2.
Yeah, so these are for like a couple. Hey. Well,
I'll make sure I look. So you still want A2? You would be. A2 requires a CUP over 250. You still want that?
I think we decided, I think we intended to take that out.
Okay.
Because, you remember that this.
Yeah. I'll make sure I look at all those sections and. Yeah, make sure they're all good.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple quick questions on this is. The first one is on solar arrays. Would they be allowed? Or the storage from the solar array?
For A5 right now, that would not be a permitted use.
Yeah, that would be desired. I'm just speaking from our township. That'd be a desired effect.
Now, it could be. Yeah, and it's not even really listed as a potential CUP either. Because that was kind of where I have some notes later on. It's like, where should solar go? Cause we're gonna get more of it. It's not going away.
And it should be in the 2 and 5. Forestry. For sure. And we will see if it is. Again, I'm just thinking of the challenge, which may be of, the anomaly. If it's any kind of RR district that may do that. It's limited.
Well, Webb Lake, that was forestry.
Oh.
Yeah,
It challenged in the forest because it was too residential or whatever.
yeah.
So I was thinking of, trying to remember what the law about citing said. But I think it was limiting in residential. Maybe though, that we can authorize it in. Residential recreational, or if we do, that's what we do. And also, a lot of these. Currently follow. Solar fields. Might be a reasonable place to have it solar. As opposed to highly productive.
If they're close enough to a large population to utilize the power produced.
See, the thing about the Lakeland, the Northwest part of there is to address summer, daytime load. When they sold the network, whatever was left over, if we're generating power to sell outside of the rate table, maybe the subject to homes, but not having power. If they could have met their needs, usually a little 14-acre day would have matched if you had to meeting a plan or member. Whatever that would produce. I gotta tell my phone to be quiet, excuse me.
So would it be a conditional use in A5 or not?
Well, yeah, I think you probably want to do it under a conditional use, allowing it just as a permitted use. If you, maybe there's concerns that people would have that you wouldn't be able to address if it's just a permitted use.
So, we got an article in the town magazine about it. Really covers a lot of this stuff and calls attention to the storage aspect of. Because it's, the way those batteries, they can like thermic or maybe if you ever look at the site, it's really difficult. And it's a lot of issues with trying to cope with that. And, you know, so you'd want to regulate that separately than a grade problem. Made sense to me. But they talk a lot about general zoning and how to do it. And I think we need to put some standards, kind of like we do for communication towers. In a segment about solar and then which districts it's in and keep in mind that once you go to 100 megawatts, you don't get to vote anymore. Public Service Commission decides that. But we can regulate them under that to some extent, but we can't ban them either. And we have to provide opportunities for protecting access to the sun so the neighbor can't build a fence to keep the sun off the collectors. You know, it sounds crazy again, but the legislature's addressed.
So my next question on the farmland preservation. It'd still be an allowable parcel in farmland preservation.
Yeah.
I-
Because the overlay you take care of it even if.
Okay.
But would it still be okay though? Cause if the permitted uses allow things that are not,
Oh, you mean solar.
well, no, I'm saying, well,
Just a question.
I think he's asking, you're not just talking about
Generally in the
solar.
A5 district.
In the A5
district, would you-
It's eligible for farmland preservation. I don't know if it would though, because there's some permitted uses in here maybe that are not allowed.
Two is either unless you use the other,
Correct,
but the other one still be tried to be five.
yeah.
No, it's
But-
restrictive overlay that is in the farmland preservation, these things are pulled out of the five. It's like, it had to do with, the maybe because of the minimum. Cities are very helpful. That would be more focused, you got that. Look,
That was gonna be, if you guys wanted to go with these sections, I was gonna do some more research on if farmland preservation is still eligible or not, or what would have to change.
And I don't think that's as big of an issue with this, because typically what we're looking to address is if someone owns a 40-acre parcel and they want to build so much as a hunting shack on there, they can't do it unless they are a farmer. And then they can build a non-agricultural structure. And so we wanted to give an off-ramp, so to speak, for someone to rezone to this rather than to A2, because we don't want our 40 split into 10-acre parcels. That was a resounding no at our annual meeting. And so with that said, if you own a 40 and you want to build a shack on it or whatever, I don't think farmland preservation is a high priority for the majority of the people that are interested in this.
But the other thing to do about this is that you remember we talked about some of Roosevelt, which is already true of you. Maybe Roosevelt would be interested in going some of the neighborhoods for this. Too. It doesn't help on the preservation.
It would depend on the owner of the property. That's what it would come down to, because unless you're farming, if it reduces your taxes, I could see going to A5, but at A2, it's less restrictive.
And your opportunity for resale is higher. I don't see a lot of people biting on that.
Well, just again, discussion. They really have the issue, but they didn't want A because it was too easy.
Yes.
Maybe they use based assessment capability on this.
That was my questions on the proposed A5. Our township, I'm speaking for them, saying the 38 to 40 acre parcel size would be the desired size. And that said, it would not, permitted use would not allow for a one-time 5 acre split, would it?
No.
Okay, that they would be in favor of, I know.
One thing we talked about before, the start of the two, we should probably add one more
Conditional use, not permitted use. Yeah.
Especially if we're contemplating not having it complete. We have to figure out a few of it's it can go. It's like, give us the legislative authority without the zoning for large and new extended habitat. And we don't have that anymore. You know? And it's sort of like the campground scenario. Right?
Yeah, and I can tell you from our township's standpoint, we're in need of gravel. Our current gravel pit that are close by is getting down there. And I personally have explored on my property for gravel and found none. You know, believe it or not, there wasn't enough rock.
Here's this evidence, it's really remote from the development. And two, as we just pointed out, it's
Yes. Yeah.
So this kind of puts it back to a even less strict district. Probably the appropriate place to zone to, where you want to maintain a permit too, because it's gonna less likely people clustering around it and that concept.
It's also going to have a higher likelihood of gravel roads, which is where the majority of it goes.
Anyway, so let's maybe put that in the. For this one.
So I'll make those changes and modifications to A5. Page 28. I need to work on a few definitions and different things in there. I have listed in blue, a couple little minor changes. Forestry, so page,
Yep. I'm gonna add RRRC to item number 12, recreational service. Facilities.
what page are you on?
28. 26.
Oh. Yeah.
It seems to make sense. Same with line 26.
So you want campgrounds in commercial? That's what you'd be saying.
In my opinion would be yes.
I
considering
thought-
everything else you can have in commercial, I'd rather have a campground than adult. Stores.
What we did with the RRC though. Is for that specific.
So if you want a campground, you rezone to that RRRC district, not commercial, because if otherwise you'd open up every commercial parcel to a campground. If we added that section in there.
Well, with everything they're opened up to, that seems like a pretty minor thing to do.
Keep in mind that. Would be a conditional use for a new commercial district anyway. And didn't have the rezoning. To it that we wanted to have, because that's how we gain the township participation. And agreement to the change. That was why we did it.
Cause I don't think that campgrounds work group wanted campgrounds in commercial.
No,
Well,
Otherwise, we would have put it in there.
I mean, you're sort of doing that by saying that they're allowed recreation service oriented facilities as stated in R1, R2, R3,
Those don't allow campgrounds.
they allow resorts.
They don't allow campgrounds.
What's the difference?
Well, resort and campgrounds seem to be a lot different in most people's eyes. I think most people think of a resort being 5 little cabins on a lake lot, not 150 campers.
I think
On a lake
resort- I
lot.
mean, if you look at major resorts now, you drive by on 94 down to Milwaukee and Madison. They've got swimming pools and clubhouses and RV campsites, and camper campsites and cabins. That's a, you know, to me, a resort is anything that offers you a place to stay plus something else. A swimming pool, tennis court, bar, restaurant. I mean, I think you could consider those resorts.
let's not get into that part of it so much. Yeah, I get your point. But keep in mind, this is kind of before your time. The decision to go with the rezoning is to do it with county controlling authority in case of access to someone. So you have to approve of it because of the condition. And that preempted a lot of discretion in the conditional use permits. So the things that we want to do with the increase of authority, we need to have legislative act, which is what we're going. Not a real estate conditional use permit, but the judicial act. That's where the flaw in that, in my mind, the Act 67 took away our ability to say, we recognize that a conditional use permit would be suitable in some areas, but not every area. And Act 67 essentially said, no, you gotta, if they agree to the conditions, even if you don't like it, you gotta approve it. That's why we did what we did.
You also gotta remember too, this adult stores has limits on, they're allowed in a C1, but they also have to be a 1/4 mile away from any residential area, anything else. So you can't just.
Yeah, I'm just considering the list of what's permitted. To me,
Yeah.
having a campground as a permitted use is fine. That's just my opinion, or, you know, move on.
We'll discuss it over the year sometime.
I was, yeah, page 31 is the an F2 district. Nobody asked for this. I just put it in since we were modifying districts. Essentially, we have right now F1, which is a forestry 20-acre minimum. So I thought, why not make an F2 forestry 40-acre minimum? I copied all the same conditional use and permitted uses from the F1 again, to give people more choices or townships more choices to rezone certain land to, so. Then I think, I mean, that's pretty much it, cause we were only going to do articles 1 and 2.
That one was to have holding and mining.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just trying to see what public. Honestly, connected year round.
This is just the first time he really went as far as 7 and didn't keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, cause I should have had. shooting ranges, I should have quarries. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot that, airports. Yeah, okay, need to add that. Add rest of F1 CUP items.
By the time you got to this point, it may have been just a big word for.
I might have been giving up at that point, maybe. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, and I'll add the rest of the F1 CUP items to F2 CUP items.
Everybody read the article and let's talk about building. Maybe that's at least proves it, you know?
Well, under the conditional use, it's fine. Page 32, it's got dams, plants, electrical power and storage area. But if that production of electric power, you're saying comes from water flow, or can that be solar?
Well, that was the whole argument that Webb Lake had when some of the people didn't like that we were running the CUP for solar underneath that wording. But I said, you know, plants for production of power, that seems to be a solar array in my mind, but.
Also plants for production of power with the dams. The two dams we have, if we have a plant power in the whole county with that, we each get one like.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But that's what I mean, does
Northwest
that
Electric-
include solar power?
Northwest Electric had decent electric generator capacity in the country. We were to make up for it if they needed supply, if they couldn't get enough off the grid. So, right? Every so often they have to fire that stuff up and prove it. So that is not a dam, it's a free way. It's more than one way, but our ordinance was never written with the thought of solar.
Yeah, a lot of this language is from the seventies when
Yep.
solar didn't exist.
This will be adopted as a model probably from the fifties.
Yeah. So I let that CUP go through because when I read that, it says dams, comma, plants for production of power. So it's not, that's saying, in my mind, any sort of plant for production of power is a CUP. Solar, wind, those are all power production facilities. Yeah.
Well, that's what my thought.
Yeah, but we could clarify that section. Or leave it, cause there was people that were opposed to that said, hey, they didn't agree with that interpretation. They said it's dams only.
We need to
clarify that.
Yeah,
We need to probably have a expanded, section about.
yeah,
Let's just start thinking about that, and get a good start. And it shows you how bored I was, I read it. Yeah, it's got really good article. Some of this, Mark.
I don't, Jason, on, when they start going to size, yeah. I don't like to see the average lot width on that, especially the big ones, because some of these big parcels you have left are gonna end up with flag lots. Or have lot access and so forth, so I think if they meet the acreage. You know, if you're putting part of the access into it, or, you know, like that was 40 foot, 66 foot total, and that's 40. Good part of that, so. As long as it's at least 100 feet wide on most of these ones for the sizes, I don't think. You need to worry about the size, being it's 40 acres, 20 acres, it's gonna be big. So, I don't know why you have to have an average lot width. But you might not do the CSM, maybe you are.
probably not.
I'm just trying to think of a reason, you know, to have an average lot width.
It's more important than smaller ones, smaller yards are created in.
Yeah, for smaller, you definitely need to, this, large parcel like that. You're gonna have some odd pieces that might be fun to find. You know, 1200 foot wide lot, you have to have, might have to have 160 acres.
Good part. Yeah, we can look in.
That's just when you get to those.
Anybody have any notes or want to continue? Dominating.
My last question I have is timing. I know this is the first kick at the cat on revised districts, et cetera. And so I'm assuming it'll come back in a month. And then when would the full board be looking at it?
Really good question, but if we feel like we're pretty happy with what we have after next month's discussion. And if we feel like it will drop out. before the end, we'll be talking about it.
Well, you know, I've only looked at Article 1 and 2 of chapter 30. Do you wanna look at everything in chapter 30?
Yeah, that's-
Cause you'd probably want to adopt all of it at one time. Unless you wanna do piecemeal adoptions.
It's gonna be hard to do all of it, I think, but at the same time. We've gotta deal with whatever this spins off and affects, right?
Yep.
And so, I guess we're just gonna have to look at it as we go, but. There's certain things that I don't see us dealing with communication colleagues. Some of those sections that.
Yeah, some of those are, we don't have much control over.
Like that, think how fast we can go and how much we do.
Cause I know there was CUP language we maybe wanted to look at in some of those later on sections about. Cleaning up the list of items we look at for a CUP as well.
And, we want to add some language about comprehensive plan, consistency with CUP. That we put in the comp plan. It needs to be. In order for us to, know the conditions of the condition. Consistency with the comp plan, that's what it is. That's also the plan, if the plan, you know. And we don't know, we might pretty have everyone else. Well, they can actually do the first thing. And so only is guidance. But it is, as we learned in our training session, how you do it, you want to have that language. You need to have it in your ordinance. So definitely want to put that in.
I'm only asking because I know the first question that will come up at the next town board meeting. If I discuss this is, well, when will it take effect?
Government, we move slow, so.
That's the answer I always give them. Right after I say, call Jason. So- That's fine. I'll just tell them it's in the works. It'll be a while. Yeah, 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah, we were going to try to be done with this before the building season gets out. This is, I thought it was good too.
Okay.
This is the time of the year that not around new ones.
Done it before.
If you're done with this,
It's a good point.
So I will, you're basically telling me to revise based on our discussion today. And we will come back with another set of revisions of Articles 1 and 2 for next month.
But I'm thinking about how to do this.
Okay, and then do you wanna, and wind? Wind is a thing that it's kind of like solar,
Aptitude map I saw, we're not that big of good a spot for wind, but we're a pretty good spot for solar,
you know.
surprising. So,
But that's with today's technology, we are in a good spot for wind. You know, maybe everybody has a 5-foot windmill at their house producing their own electricity down.
we can't count on the wind. As
Right.
much as we can, the sun. So,
Keep going on the sun.
Yeah.
for a while there, we were in something with things, so. Couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, who knows what could come along for generating power.
Yeah.
Well, they talk about micro nuclear facilities, right? And every neighborhood will have their own nuclear.
Soon we may want to address nuclear.
Oh my gosh.
Nuclear thing? That's.
I know, but I wouldn't even know how to write, what to look.
Maybe we could address that, or whomever could address that at such time.
Say, you may want to add some boilerplate language in there.
See, I'll do research on nuclear zoning. See what I can find. Staff reports and stuff ready, huh? I thought we were so looking forward to being done.
I think they proceeded. Do that.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me the privilege of sitting here.
Welcome anytime.
Oh, good to know. Duke left me a chair.
You were the author of the suggestion for the age of stuff.
Oh, okay. Property information reports, what staff have been working on is in their budget report. Everything looks fine for the year. We exceeded our revenue already for the year. Nothing really out of line. Nope. Yep, not gonna hit 300 sewers. Yes, permit numbers in 103 new dwellings. And this report is through December 29th, so there was probably only a handful of permits issued those last couple days of the month. But next month I'll have the totals for the year in my report next month. List of all the rezones and CUPs and variances that have been looked at, so you can see what I kind of like to have you guys maybe look at that, because that kind of tells you what things you might want to address in the ordinances. If you're seeing a lot of variances and CUPs come through for certain topics, maybe then you should look at amending ordinances of the things you have control over. A lot of the variance ones, those are state laws that they're trying to get a variance for. So some of those can't adjust the ordinance to, but yeah, so there's lots of public hearings last year. So, and then, yeah, we're fully staffed. Derek and Kelly got their reports in there, what they've been working on. So now the permits are pretty slow with everything being frozen, pretty solid. So,
How much cost is it?
I do not know how much frost there is.
Something to be very nervous about, because we start getting 30 below all of a sudden, no snow. We have a lot of people wondering why they flush the toilet, nothing good.
Yep. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of cleanup stuff right now.
Future agenda items, like we mentioned, just add some discussion about solar. I might take a couple of chats to get to that.
Future agenda item, as I'm reviewing the variances, it looks like about 2/3 of them have to do with setbacks to wetland and setbacks for non-conforming to shoreline protection, ordinary high water mark. And pretty much anything that anyone applied for, even against the recommendation of the DNR, pretty much was passed. And I would just like to, education, review what's happening, just the training we went to, was pretty clear about the effects of, building, within those areas, the effect on the waterway. So something I'd like to see pursued, at least research it further.
Education for this committee or for the BOA or both? Cause you guys don't have a say
We don't have
essentially in the variance.
We don't have a say, and it might. I guess there's so many things to question because, I know some other counties have a staff recommendation where they basically say, staff recommends that you deny this and then, state, but is that additional legal risk or ramifications that we're taking on? So I just think there's a lot to look at it, but I find it concerning and I would just like to dive into it. But just a future agenda item and something that I'm going to be digging into, and we'll probably just propose in a larger way. So nothing you have to worry about until it comes up.
Sweet.
Nothing you have to worry.
Look at doing that, not necessarily next,
Right.
necessarily on this. If that's down on the other little bit, you can-
Regarding education. The little flyers. I presume as a resident of the village of Brandsburg, I did not get one because we fall under our own village.
Correct. So we did not give those flyers to people that get tax bills in the villages, correct?
Yeah.
But if you own property outside of the village, you would have got it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I figured that was the case.
Yep, we think most of the townships sent it out, from what we've been gathering, or talking to different people, so that's a good thing. I'm surprised we haven't got many phone calls, knock on wood, right? About that flyer or the stuff in there, so
Well, maybe it was really clear.
I don't know, hopefully.
Explanatory.
When I saw it, yeah. Yeah. But I've had residents say that was good.
Okay, good.
Wonderful.
One further?
Sorry, just one last thing regarding future agenda items. Is enforcement still on the future agenda item list? We talked a lot last time, but we never really did anything. It seems like my suggestion would be we come up with some sort of a guideline or something that everybody agrees with. I don't know.
I
agree. I think that's where, we left last time, where we provided a lot of information, but really lies with you folks as a policymaking body. To help determine what is enforced look like based upon the resources we provided the department as well as the ordinances that exist. Correct. And so we are looking for that direction. So what we desire or don't desire from staff. We serve at your pleasure, we work for you, and we follow the rules and regulations as you folks intended to be followed. So we would be very open and looking for some guidance as it relates to.
Well, the interest of trying to keep these manageable lengths. As we work on the ordinance, let's continue to do that with the thought of what we do in the ordinance amendments. Are going to be enforceable and how are we going to do it, It's a parallel track, what we're talking about. Like with conditional use permits, having a whole bunch of conditions we're gonna put on something. Meaning somebody has to enforce them or they're not meaningful, right? And so that is arguably, if you don't have the capacity to do a lot of enforcement, you shouldn't be allowing things that require a lot of enforcement either. Right? So sometimes that's a reason to say no, because we can't enforce the conditions we would have to regulate that. That's part of the whole thing we're talking about with amendments here, to my mind. So let's just keep it alive. We're gonna bring that up, but it may not, maybe we'll focus on it as we get through some of these suggested changes first. Makes sense to everybody?
And one other item that I think you had brought up at a previous meeting for future agenda was just discussion on you thought the website was difficult to use. And I guess the question I have in regards to that, is that just kind of the nature of the beast? Even when I look things up on the state level, I have challenges, is there anything we can do?
We are looking, and I think we're modifying that home page to get the new button on there. That's gonna get people directly to the zoning page instead of having to try to figure out what department it's in. And we are looking at things. Yeah, part of it is we're a county that has 18 different departments or something, and there's so much information we're trying to get out about so many different things. And zoning can't be the only thing that people are looking for in the county, so.
But I'm talking specifically zoning. Has anyone seen a better model out there? It's like, I think we reference things when we can, but it's like, I know sometimes you have to look multiple places to find things out. So then the suggestion is ask zoning because you guys are going to know. But
I mean, Washburn County redid their page, so we're kind of looking at theirs to see if it flows maybe a little bit better than what we have, but yeah, I mean, there's not a silver bullet that I'm aware of.
And I've searched other counties to see what they're doing, which are going on. I think I would have an easy license.
I mean,
A lot of them don't have what we have. The one-foot contour strips. We've got tremendous resources available on that page, but it isn't always easy to use.
well, my philosophy has always been to put everything out there. Now, does that overwhelm people? I don't know, but yeah, our GIS website, we have every single layer. And I've gone on other counties and I can't find they don't have anything on their GIS website.
I appreciate it.
And then same thing, like all of our permits are online, most of them except the old ones that aren't scanned. Some counties you have to call up and get copies of the permits. They don't, I mean, so we are trying to get as much information out there as we can, but then you also run the risk of overwhelming, or there's so much out there, you don't even know where to go to find it.
And that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
It seems like it's the nature of the beast, and I don't think we're necessarily doing any worse, but maybe better than a lot of places.
We're good, but sometimes we got overwhelming amount. And for me, nothing in the store, very difficult.
Well, we still don't like it, so.
I had a talk with, guy, how to do the lake, it's, district map. And he was scratching and said, I can't help you with this.
Yeah.
Would it possibly be helpful to have frequently asked questions?
We do have frequently asked questions on our webpage. Apparently you haven't looked for them. But no, there are and we're going through those questions too. We're gonna rewrite them and take out ones that are not relevant or whatever else.
Yeah,
But
you're my guide when I have
yes,
a frequently thought of question.
yes. But no, there are like 30 some FAQs on the webpage right now for
Wonderful,
just
thank you.
selling stuff. Yeah.
One question, is solar gonna be permitted in ag use?
That will be a discussion you guys would have to decide. I know Dwayne, where you guys are kind of kicking around the A5.
Cause I think it should, not just forestry, it should be permitted in the ag too, I would think.
That's why for the next month, I think Craig was saying you guys need to think about solar and what districts you potentially want them to be in. Then we can make those changes.
But we want to set as guidelines what we'd like to see.
Yep.
Now, that's commercial solar, residential solar where people have their own panels for their own place. That's something different.
Yeah, we just treat that like an accessory structure. So you get $150 permit for your own personal solar system. It just has to meet setbacks like any other thing does, and it gets a permit. So yeah, we're talking power production for other people, solar. Yeah.
I understand there's a project going on with Sam.
There will be a project right off of Highway 70 that we'll see if everyone will get riled up about once they start seeing that go up, but it's in an unzoned area, so.
Where would that be?
Just about a half a mile or so west of the Viola Lake overlook. On the north side of the road. Yeah, and so it's out of the shoreland, out of the 1,000-foot ring around Viola. Yep. Mhm. So it's only about, it's only a little over a quarter mile past Compo Road. That farm, there's a big kind of a farm field. Yeah, maybe, I mean, it's a farm field, but I don't think it's a high production farm field by any means. But yeah, I think the plan is for that to start going up this spring.
So that's in the town of La Folla.
Sand Lake, I believe. Yes, Sand Lake. Yeah.
Anyway, if there's nothing further, looking for the group. Motion. Guys. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.
Where does